This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather Ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to another sports catastrophe on this day. And on this day, June the 21st, 1997, it was the first day of summer. But it was also the day that many teams got to pick players in the NHL entry draft. So Boston surprisingly sucked badly enough to get the number one draft pick. Now, of course, there was a draft lottery with the ping pong balls, but Boston got the ping pong ball to win the right to go number one overall. And it was weird for Boston because prior to the 96-97 season, they hadn't missed the playoffs in 29 years. Can you imagine a team going 29 years without missing the playoffs in any of the four major sports? You can't do that. I know that hockey and basketball give you kind of a 50 plus % chance of making the playoffs. Football is 14 out of 32, and hockey and baseball is what, 10 out of it's 14 out of 30, so less than 50%. Yeah, team hasn't done that streak. In fact, the Leafs, as of right now, have the longest postseason appearances streak since 2017. Read that mind. And then, basketball, well, you would think the Lakers would have such a streak. Or the Celtics. Nope. Anyhow, Boston got the number one draft pick. And it would go San Jose second, Los Angeles third. Then the Islanders will go back-to-back 4 or 5. Calgary, Tampa, Boston, a pick from Carolina. And then Washington, Vancouver. So those were the 10. The top 10. With the first overall pick, Boston took Joe Thornton from Sault Ste. Marie. And it was a good pick. Joe Thornton was an icon. Still is. He technically still is playing in the NHL, even though he didn't play for a team this year. So he'll probably retire. But man, Joe Thornton, this is 26 years ago. And he's still technically playing. But yeah, Boston used a good move to get Joe Thornton. He's done a lot of things. So actually, he's the last active player in any of the major league big four, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, to play in the 90s, and the last to play against Wayne Gretzky. And all that. So yeah, Thornton has a great campaign and all that. He actually holds many records. He's the only player in NHL history to win the Art Ross and Hart Trophy while playing for different teams. Because in 2006, the 05-06 season, Boston finally decided to get rid of him. He was underperforming in the playoffs. So they traded him to San Jose for Marco Sturm, and that ended up being one of the worst trades Boston's ever made. He has the highest point total by a player with 2 different teams in one season, 125 points. Third player in NHL history to go back-to-back 96 seasons. Only Gretzky and Lemieux have that. Most games played by an NHL number one pick, which is still 1,714 with that. He's the Sharks' all-time leader in assists, plus minus, and points per game. San Jose went second and took Patty Marleau from the Seattle Thunderbirds of the WHL. So Patrick Marleau, I was surprised that Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau, known for their longevity, were 1-2 in the draft. The Sharks took Patty Marleau. He was a Sharks legend. And then, for some inexplicable reason, they let him go to Toronto in free agency. Yeah, he was okay for Toronto in free agency, but still, Toronto overpaid for him. Los Angeles took Olli Jokinen third from Finland. Now, Olli Jokinen would be a Florida Panthers icon, but yeah, the Kings took Olli Jokinen. Or it might have been if he stayed in LA. Fourth pick was the Islanders. Now, the Leafs actually were supposed to pick fourth. But the Leafs decided to trade that first-round pick to the Islanders for the want of one Wendell Clark. They wanted Wendell Clark back. He was a Leafs icon. So they traded a first-round pick to get Wendell Clark back. And it bit the Leafs in the butt because the fourth pick was Roberto Luongo from Val d'Or in the Quebec Hockey League. So the Islanders took Roberto Luongo. Yep, he was a New York Islander for a while. And then Mike Milbury decided to trade him to Vancouver for Trevor Linden. Also sending Todd Bertuzzi from the Islanders to the Canucks. That trade really blew up in Milbury's face. Because Luongo... No, sorry. I'm backing... No, sorry. I'm losing it. Luongo was traded to Florida for Olli Jokinen, who ironically was the third overall pick. Yeah, so Olli Jokinen. Was that Olli Jokinen? I can't remember the trade. I can't remember the trade for the life of me. Hold on. I'm stupid here. It was the others and then the Panthers. Yeah, there was a trade. No, yeah. Olli Jokinen ended up with the Islanders from Los Angeles. So Milbury traded Luongo to Florida alongside Jokinen for Mark Parrish and Ole Kafasha in 2000. So yeah, so Luongo played a few years and then he went to Florida, became a legend, and then Vancouver picked him up for Todd Bertuzzi, I think it was, somewhere. But Luongo would become one of the best Vancouver goalies of all time. Sorry, Kirk McLean. But yeah, that was huge. The Islanders let him go. Mike Milbury screwed up. The Islanders had the 5th pick, and they took Eric Brewer from Prince George, a good defenseman. The only problem is, just like Luongo, Brewer would be better known for being part of another team. Brewer would be an all-star for the Edmonton Oilers. So that would be huge. So yeah, so for the first 5 picks in the 97 draft would be players that would be better suited for other teams. Patty Marleau being the exception. Calgary took Daniel Tkachuk from Barrie, 6th overall, and it didn't work out. Tampa took Paul Mara from Sudbury. He would be better known as a Coyote. Boston, with their 2nd first-round pick, 8th overall, they took Sergei Samsonov, which was actually a good move, as Samsonov would become a Boston icon. Washington took Nick Boynton, 9th from Ottawa, defenseman, and Vancouver, 10th overall, was Brad Ferentz from Spokane as a defenseman. Other notable first-round picks were Marian Hossa going 12th to the Senators, which was actually a good move. Scott Hannon went to the Sharks, 23rd overall. So the Sharks got a good defenseman. But other than that, and Brandon Morrow went 25th overall to Dallas. So Dallas knew what they had. And Brandon Morrow went to Dallas and became a star for them. The 2nd round didn't really see too many big picks. Although, to be fair, Christian Huselius going 47th overall to Florida was a good move. Wes Jarvis became the first Kitchener Ranger picked in the 97. He went to the Rangers, the New York Rangers, that is. Henrik Talander would go to Buffalo, 48th overall. In the 3rd round, Buffalo took Maxim Afinogenov. In the 5th round, Kyle Calder went to Chicago. 6th round, Mike York went to the Rangers. Brian Campbell would go 156 overall to Buffalo from the Ottawa farm system, the Ottawa OHL team. But Brian Campbell would make people huge. David Abisher was picked in the 6th round by the Avalanche. Yeah, and Andrew Ference went in the 8th round to Pittsburgh. And Carlo Rakunik went 9th round to Ottawa. And the last pick of the draft was Boston getting Jay Henderson. So, yeah, the 97-98 season was great. But Joe Forden just crushed it by his longevity. So, too, was Patrick Marleau. Can you imagine Forden and Marleau being teammates? It was the number 1 and number 2 picks in the same draft. Not drafted by the same team at once, but yeah, the Sharks struck gold with Forden and Marleau. Too bad they never led to a Stanley Cup victory and all that. And that's why San Jose is basically one of the biggest overachievers in NHL history. Bank on that. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.